The email arrived at exactly 8 a.m., carrying the kind of subject line that instantly made my stomach tighten. Special assignment required elegance. I read it twice, then a third time, convinced it had been sent to the wrong person. The message was surprisingly short. Report to Executive Training Suite 7 at 9 a.m. Attendance is mandatory. Dress code will be provided upon arrival. No explanation. No agenda. No signature beyond the company logo. By the time I reached the executive floor, I noticed something strange. Nobody else was waiting outside Suite 7. Either I was the only employee selected, or everyone else already knew something I didn't. I knocked softly. "Come in." The room looked nothing like a corporate office. Warm lighting replaced the usual fluorescent panels. Large mirrors lined one wall, elegant furniture filled the space, and clothing racks stood neatly arranged beside polished wooden shelves. Every outfit hanging there looked refined, expensive, and unmistakably feminine. For a second, I honestly believed I had walked into the wrong room. "I'm sorry," I said awkwardly. "I think I have the wrong office." "You have exactly the right one." The woman standing beside the window smiled warmly. "My name is Evelyn. I'll be leading your assignment." She motioned toward a chair. "Please sit." I obeyed, still trying to understand why there were dresses, heels, handbags, and jewelry surrounding us. She handed me a slim leather folder. Inside was a document titled Executive Presence through Elegance Program. I frowned. "What exactly is this?" Evelyn folded her hands. "Our company has secured an international partnership with a luxury consulting group. They believe that understanding elegance isn't something you study from books. It must be experienced." I nodded politely, waiting for the important part. Then she said it. "For the next 4 weeks, every private training session will require you to present yourself in elegant feminine business attire." The room became completely silent. "I'm sorry, what?" "You heard correctly. I think there's been some mistake." "There hasn't. I'm not. I mean..." She didn't interrupt. Instead, she calmly slid another paper across the table. "This assignment is voluntary." That immediately relaxed me, until I noticed the sentence underneath. "Completion of this program is required for promotion into executive client relations." I had worked toward that promotion for almost 3 years. Walking away now meant starting over. Evelyn watched my expression carefully. "I know this is unexpected. You could say that. This isn't about pretending to become someone else." "Then, what's the point?" "It's about understanding presentation, confidence, body language, emotional intelligence, and the psychology of elegance." I looked again at the dresses hanging nearby. She noticed. Most participants hesitate for exactly 30 seconds. And after that, they become curious. I couldn't deny she was right. The more I looked around, the less ridiculous everything seemed. Nothing looked flashy. Nothing looked theatrical. The clothing was tasteful, professional, and surprisingly sophisticated. Finally, I sighed. "When do we begin?" She smiled. "Right now." She walked toward one of the racks and removed a navy blue business dress. It was simple. Long sleeves. Knee length. Elegant rather than glamorous. "This will be your first lesson." She placed it gently into my hands. Alongside it came sheer stockings, low black heels, and a lightweight cardigan. "There are changing rooms behind that door." I stared at the outfit for several seconds. My heartbeat became louder with every passing moment. I've never been afraid of trying something new, but this felt completely different. Questions raced through my mind. What if I looked ridiculous? What if someone saw me? What if I couldn't even walk properly? Eventually, curiosity won. Inside the changing room, I carefully removed my business suit. The dress felt surprisingly soft. It fit much better than I expected. The stockings required patience. The heels were intimidating. After several attempts, I finally managed to put everything on correctly. Then, I turned toward the mirror. For several long seconds, I simply stared. I didn't see someone pretending. I didn't see a costume. I saw someone completely unfamiliar, yet strangely composed. The elegant lines of the dress naturally changed how I stood. My shoulders relaxed. My posture straightened. The cardigan softened the entire appearance. When I finally stepped outside, every movement felt awkward. Evelyn smiled encouragingly. No apologies. I'm definitely walking wrong. Of course you are. She laughed gently. So, did every participant before you? She motioned toward the mirrors. Stand naturally. I am standing naturally.
No.
She walked beside me. Your shoulders are tense. She gently demonstrated the correct posture. Relax. I copied her. Good. Lift your chin slightly. I did. Excellent. Now breathe. Only then did I realize I'd been holding my breath. Better already. She handed me a slim notebook. Today's lesson isn't about looking feminine. What is it about? Learning that elegance begins long before clothing. For the next hour, she taught surprisingly practical things. How to stand without shifting weight constantly. How to enter a room calmly. How to sit gracefully instead of collapsing into a chair. How to make eye contact without staring. Every correction felt surprisingly useful. Eventually, she pointed toward the heels. Ready? For what? Walking. I was hoping you'd skip that part. She smiled. Everyone hopes that. The first step nearly made me lose my balance. She caught my arm before I stumbled. Slow. I feel ridiculous. You feel unfamiliar. There's a difference. Again I tried. One careful step. Then another. Instead of rushing, she encouraged shorter movements.
Heel, toe, heel, toe.
Within 15 minutes, I wasn't perfect. But I wasn't stumbling either. I looked at myself in the mirror again. The difference wasn't the clothing anymore. It was confidence. Not complete confidence. Just the smallest beginning of it. Evelyn seemed pleased. You've already discovered the first lesson. I have. You stopped worrying about how you looked. I thought about it. She was right. Somewhere between the awkward first steps and the steady rhythm of walking, I had completely forgotten to be embarrassed. Instead, I wanted to improve. That realization surprised me more than anything else. As I prepared to leave, Evelyn handed me a garment bag. Take this home. I looked inside. Another elegant outfit. A cream blouse. A charcoal pencil skirt. Matching flats. Simple pearl earrings. Homework. She nodded. Wear it tomorrow before arriving. You mean come here already dressed? She smiled knowingly. That's when the real assignment begins. I stared at the bag, suddenly realizing that today's lesson had only been an introduction. Tomorrow, I wouldn't just be trying on elegance. I would have to walk through the lobby, ride the elevator, and enter this room carrying myself with the confidence I had only begun to discover. For the first time since receiving that mysterious email, I felt something stronger than nervousness. I felt genuinely curious about who I might become before this special assignment came to an end. The garment bag rested on the passenger seat during my drive home, and I kept glancing at it every few minutes. Part of me wanted to zip it open again, while another part wondered if I had made the biggest mistake of my career. That night, instead of tossing it into the closet, I carefully hung each piece exactly as Evelyn had shown me. She had insisted that elegance started with respecting your clothing before you even wore it. It sounded overly dramatic at first, but somehow the simple act of preparing everything for the next morning made the assignment feel more real. I barely slept. By 6 o'clock the next morning, I stood in front of my bedroom mirror wearing the cream blouse and charcoal skirt. It had taken nearly 40 minutes to get everything right. The stockings sat smoothly, without wrinkles. The blouse was neatly tucked. The pearl earrings were simple enough that they didn't draw attention, yet they completed the look perfectly. The low black flats felt far less intimidating than the heels from yesterday, but I still found myself checking my reflection every few seconds. When I arrived at the office building, my heart pounded harder than it had before any business presentation. The lobby suddenly felt enormous. Every person walking past seemed as though they would immediately recognize I was part of some unusual assignment, even though no one paid more than a polite glance. A receptionist smiled warmly. "Good morning." "Good morning." My voice sounded steadier than I expected. Inside the elevator, I caught my reflection in the mirrored wall. Yesterday, I would have focused on every tiny flaw. Today I noticed something different. My posture was naturally straighter. My shoulders were relaxed. I wasn't pretending anymore. I was simply concentrating on carrying myself with confidence. When the elevator doors opened, Evelyn was already waiting. She smiled without saying a word. Then she slowly walked around me once before stopping. "What do you notice?" "I honestly don't know." "You adjusted your posture before stepping out of the elevator." "I did." "You weren't thinking about your clothes." I realized she was right. Instead of worrying about how I looked, I had been thinking about how I walked. Excellent progress. The morning lesson focused entirely on movement. Walking while carrying a notebook. Opening doors gracefully. Offering a handshake without appearing stiff. Sitting through a meeting while maintaining good posture. Even standing up from a chair became an exercise. I couldn't help laughing. I've been sitting incorrectly my entire life. Most people have. By lunchtime, my legs felt surprisingly tired. Not because of the clothing, because every movement required awareness. After lunch, Evelyn introduced something I hadn't expected. A makeup station. I immediately became nervous again. I've never done this. "I know. I don't want to look dramatic." "You won't." She placed only 5 products on the table. Moisturizer, primer, light foundation, mascara, a natural pink lip tint. That's all. Elegance is about restraint. She demonstrated every step on one side of my face, explaining why less often achieved more. Don't hide your features. Enhance them. When she handed me the mirror, I blinked several times. Nothing looked exaggerated. If anything, I simply appeared more rested. The tiny amount of mascara made my eyes look brighter without seeming obvious. The lip tint added just enough color to make me look polished rather than glamorous. I couldn't stop looking. Not because I looked like someone else. Because I still looked like myself. Just refined. "That's the goal," Evelyn said. "You read my mind." She smiled. Most people think transformation means becoming someone different. It doesn't.
No.
It means discovering details you've ignored. That sentence stayed with me all afternoon. The following lesson involved conversation, not voice training. Conversation. She invited another instructor into the room, and together they conducted mock client meetings. Every time I interrupted someone, they made a note. Every time I crossed my arms defensively, another note. Every nervous habit I had developed over the years quietly appeared on paper. At the end of the exercise, Evelyn pushed the notebook toward me. I expected criticism. Instead, I found observations. Maintains eye contact well. Smiles naturally. Speaks clearly. Needs more patience before responding. Often rushes to fill silence. Fidgets while listening.
She looked at me.
Silence isn't your enemy. I've always thought awkward pauses were bad. Sometimes the most confident person is the one comfortable saying nothing. For the next 30 minutes, we practiced exactly that. Listening, pausing, answering slowly, choosing words carefully. Oddly enough, every lesson seemed to have very little to do with clothing anymore. The elegant outfits had simply created the environment. The real assignment was changing habits. As the second week began, something unexpected happened. I stopped counting how many times I looked in the mirror. On the first day, it had been almost constant. Now I checked only to ensure everything was neat before moving on. Instead of focusing on appearance, I became fascinated by details I had never noticed before. How differently people responded when I smiled first. How standing calmly encouraged others to remain calm. How confidence could completely change a conversation before a single word was spoken. One afternoon, Evelyn handed me another garment bag. Inside was the most elegant outfit so far. A deep emerald wrap dress. A slim black belt. 3-inch heels. Matching earrings. My eyes widened. Those heels are taller. They are. I've only just mastered the smaller ones. She laughed softly. Which is exactly why you're ready. I wasn't convinced. Standing was easy. Walking was another story. The first few steps reminded me of my first day all over again. Unsteady, careful, awkward. But this time something had changed. Instead of becoming embarrassed, I slowed down, corrected my posture, remembered everything she had taught me, and continued. Heel.
toe, heel, toe.
Every lap around the practice room became smoother. Evelyn watched quietly before finally speaking. Do you know why you're improving faster now? I've practiced. Partly. What else? You've stopped fearing mistakes. That answer surprised me. She was right. On my first day, every stumble felt like failure. Now, every mistake simply showed me what to improve next. As the afternoon ended, she placed a sealed envelope on the table. Tomorrow is your first evaluation. What kind of evaluation? You'll spend an entire afternoon attending simulated executive meetings. Like an exam? In a way. I picked up the envelope. What happens if I fail? She smiled gently. You won't. How can you be so sure? Because you're no longer trying to become elegant. I looked at her curiously. You've started living the habits that create elegance. That night, driving home with the emerald dress hanging carefully behind my seat, I realized something I never expected when I first opened that mysterious email. The assignment was no longer about completing a requirement for a promotion. Somewhere along the way, it had quietly become a journey of discovering confidence I never knew I possessed. And tomorrow would reveal whether I had truly learned the lessons hidden behind every careful step, every graceful movement, and every reflection waiting in the mirror. The morning of the evaluation arrived faster than I expected. For weeks, I had imagined this day as a final test where someone would judge every mistake I made. I thought they would analyze every detail, every movement, every word. But when I entered the training suite and saw Evelyn waiting with a calm smile, I realized something important. This was never meant to be a test of perfection. It was a test of growth. Ready? She asked. I looked down at the emerald dress, then back at her. Honestly? Always. I'm nervous. She nodded. Good. I was surprised. Good. Nervous people pay attention. Overconfident people stop learning. That simple answer immediately relaxed me. The first evaluation began with a simulated business meeting. 3 executives entered the room. They were not part of the training team. They were actual senior employees from different departments who had agreed to participate. My job was simple. Introduce myself. Present a proposal. Answer questions. Remain professional. The moment they sat down, every old insecurity returned. I became aware of everything. My outfit. My heels. My hands. My voice. Then I remembered Evelyn's first lesson. Don't focus on how you look. Focus on how you make others feel. I took a slow breath. I smiled. Good morning. Thank you for taking the time to meet with me today. The conversation began. At first, I expected people to react differently because of my appearance. They didn't. They reacted to my confidence. They listened when I spoke. They asked questions. They challenged my ideas. And instead of becoming nervous, I responded calmly. After 30 minutes, the meeting ended. One of the executives smiled. Very impressive. I waited for criticism. None came. You handled pressure better than many experienced managers. That comment stayed with me, not because it was praise, because I knew how far I had come. After the meeting, Evelyn entered the room holding a notebook. How do you think you performed? I made mistakes. Everyone does. I paused too long before answering one question. Good. Good.
Yes.
You paused instead of rushing. I smiled. She continued. 6 weeks ago, you would have answered immediately just to avoid silence. She was right. I had spent years trying to appear confident by moving faster. Now I was learning that confidence often looked slower, more controlled, more thoughtful. The next part of the evaluation was unexpected. A social event simulation. A room filled with people. Small conversations. Networking. Introductions. A situation that would have terrified me before the assignment. I used to believe elegance was about expensive clothing or perfect appearance. That day proved how wrong I was. Elegance was remembering someone's name. Elegance was listening without checking your phone. Elegance was making another person feel important. The outfit helped me enter the room with confidence. But my behavior determined what happened after. By the end of the exercise, Evelyn looked genuinely pleased. You understand now. Understand what? That elegance is not something you wear. She paused. It's something people experience when they're around you. Those words became the most important lesson of the entire program. The final week focused on something completely different: independence. Until then, every outfit had been selected by Evelyn. Every detail had been planned. Now she gave me complete control. I want you to create your own professional look. I looked through the clothing options carefully. Before the assignment, I would have chosen something based only on what looked attractive. Now I thought differently. What message does this send? Does it match the situation? Does it allow confidence? Does it represent my personality? After almost an hour, I selected a simple combination: a fitted blazer, a soft blouse, a knee-length skirt, elegant heels, minimal jewelry. When Evelyn saw it, she smiled. That's yours. Is that a good thing? It's the best thing.
Why?
Because you finally stopped copying elegance and started understanding it. That evening, I walked through the office building one final time before the program ended. The same lobby, the same elevators, the same people, but I felt completely different. Not because everyone saw me differently, because I saw myself differently. The person who had walked into that training room weeks earlier had been searching for approval. The person leaving now had found something much more valuable: self-respect. The final day came with one last conversation. Evelyn handed me a certificate of completion. I looked at the words carefully: Executive Presence and Elegance Program. I laughed softly. When I first received the email, I thought this was the strangest assignment anyone could give me. And now I think it was exactly what I needed. She smiled. Most important lessons arrive in unexpected forms. Before leaving, I asked her something I had wondered about since the beginning. Why me? She looked thoughtful. Because you are willing to question yourself. Is that rare? Very. She continued. Many people spend their entire lives protecting the image they already have. Growth requires the courage to explore something unfamiliar. Those words followed me long after the assignment ended. The promotion came a few weeks later. But surprisingly, that wasn't the biggest reward. The biggest reward was the confidence I carried into every situation. Meetings became easier. Presentations became natural. Conversations became more meaningful. I had learned that clothing could influence confidence, but it could never create it. Confidence came from practice, from patience, from accepting discomfort long enough to learn from it. Looking back, the special assignment seemed impossible when it began. A mysterious email, a room full of elegant clothing, a challenge that forced me outside every familiar boundary. But sometimes the experiences we question most are the ones that reveal parts of ourselves we never knew existed. The assignment required elegance. What it truly taught was something deeper. It taught me that transformation does not happen when you become someone else. It happens when you finally allow yourself to discover everything you are capable of becoming.